Hey everybody, it is Tammy today, and I am really excited to be sharing with you. We've had so many questions in the Naturpreneur Hub, specifically around the legals to do with Australia and New Zealand, and what we need to cover. And it comes up time and time again when we think back to that stuff that we had to do for student clinic, or that stuff that we had to sign and we have to get people to sign. Can we make it up by ourselves? Is there a template we can use for it? And then we get online and find something, and it might be for the US, it might be not quite cover what we're supposed to. And, just like health and well-being in the natural setting is our zone of genius, legals are a lawyer's zone of genius. And so I'm super excited to introduce Michelle Whitehead, who's a lawyer, who is also an amazing entrepreneur, mum, and does the same stuff that we do, but she does it in her zone of genius. And she's an awesome Australian lawyer who is able to help us go through the minefield of all of our little questions and queries that we've been going through when it comes to legals. So, hey, Michelle, it's awesome to have you here.
It's wonderful to be here. Thank you.
I'm super excited today because we've got so many questions, and it comes all from the beginning of when we open up our clinics, right the way through until when we expand, what we're supposed to do when we go online, what we're supposed to do when we are sharing our spaces, what we're supposed to do, and all these new things keep cropping up, like privacy laws and stuff. So I'm super keen to hear your perspective and how you can help us through this minefield. I love your background, by the way.
I am the lawyer who works in fairyland. I am totally non-scary.
I love it, because that's the thing about lawyers, right? We get told that our experience of lawyers is this legal jargon, stuff that literally sounds like a different language from a different planet. And we often get told that everything's going to be really expensive when it comes to legal stuff. What's your take on all of that?
I actually am a massive fan of DIY. I DIY everything. I even homeschool my kids. So that's how committed to DIY I am.
Yeah.
And so I don't think, and I totally understand and experienced and am with you in the experience of being a penniless starter, but still knowing how absolutely vital it is to have those firm foundations and to give you the confidence to actually grow your business. Because we all know the mindset stuff about how the self-sabotage that can come up, and the way our fears of and relationship with risk can hold us back. And so I really believe that having integrated and aligned legals are a necessity, because you can't grow your business until you have that confidence in your foundations. So my whole take was to go out there and invent a way to make legals accessible, aligned, and affordable for female startup entrepreneurs.
Beautiful. Yeah, and it's that thing about the foundation. So we talk about it in health when it comes to the foundations of somebody's health has to be really stable before you can build on that for, optimal growth. And it's the exact same thing with our businesses. Unless we've got that really solid foundation, those fears can sneak in and really crumble it from the inside.
Well, as entrepreneurs, we're often told to just get out there and do it, get it up there. And we do that. And as at the very startup stage, that's all we can do, is to get up there. We build our castle in the air, and we build a beautiful, gorgeous castle in there, and we've got clients start flocking to it. And then it starts to feel like it's not safe when we realize we built it on sand, on shaky ground. And if we come in at that stage and put the foundations under it, then that's when we can really start to grow and expand it, and to become the empire builders that the world needs us to be.
Yeah.
To actually help as many people as we feel called to help.
In a way that we feel safe and secure and aligned, rather than scared and fearful and looking at the next opportunity to get sued.
Exactly. Well, a lot of traditional legals are all about that fear of getting sued, and they are based in, and a lot of risk management, it's all based in fear and avoidance of liability. Whereas I believe that legals should come from a place of love and connection, because you care about your clients and you care about your family and your business. And so your legals need to be that caring, connecting document, that caring, connecting policy that sets you up to provide your service in a way that provides clear boundaries. It provides consistency and certainty. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel every time you do something, because you have set your policies. You have thought about how you want your business to respond to the risks that you're facing. And risk is inevitable. There's nothing scary about risk. If we had no risk, we would just be stuck, not connecting, not communicating, not doing anything.
Yeah, it's that.
It's how we embrace that risk and how we make conscious decisions about what we're going to do if various risks eventuate, so that when a problem does arise, we have already set out our plans for how we're going to manage that risk, and we are able to respond from a conscious position of decisions that have already been made in calmness and peace, rather than reacting in that panicked, and the other thing legals do is that they manage your clients' expectations.
You're
educating your clients to be your ideal clients.
I like that. Yeah. And so true. It's so true. And I love that you brought about the response ability, the ability to respond nice and safely and calmly, rather than that reactionary kind of mode. And, you know, sometimes right at that beginning of your startup, you feel like you're just putting out spot fires, and then you get really super busy, and it's like a bushfire starts.
Yeah, exactly. And if you've built the dam and you've got the pumps and the irrigation system all set out there, and a husband in the RFS, so you're all prepared.
Yeah. I love that.
It's like the too often the legals slip down our important but not urgent list.
Yeah.
You know we need them, but they're just not urgent, so they just keep slipping down. And it's like the RFS say on their billboards, you know, planning to make a plan is not a plan.
Yep.
You actually have to get them in place, and then they have to be so aligned and so feel so natural, and to have come from your heart, so that you can apply them consistently. So they're not just something you go and you pay a lawyer to create for you, and you stick it in the bottom drawer, and then you pull it out when there's a problem and say, what did I say I was going to do again?
Yeah.
They have to be something that you understand every word of and feel totally comfortable and full ownership of every word of those documents, so that you are using and applying those policies consistently on a daily basis, so that there is no disjunct between your boundaries and you know, your business, your boundaries. You've got beautiful boundaries and you're applying them daily. That's what your legals need to do for you.
That's confidence building right there, isn't it? With that kind of security. That's really cool. So I've got a list of words that are bantered around, and I wanted your take on each of the words, and a couple of things that we've picked up on that are new kind of concepts that have been coming in, different acts and different regulations and things that have been coming in. So I thought we'd get your take on it. Is that cool?
Absolutely.
Okay, it's a bit like The Price is Right.
I love games.
What is informed consent? How can we look after informed consent, and how does it differ with kids?
So informed consent basically means giving your patients or your clients the information that they need to know in order to know what they're saying yes to, understand what's going to happen to them, and be able to make a decision as to whether they want that to happen. From a position of being informed, a position of knowledge and safety. So you want to put the firm, often when you go and consult a professional, you don't know what you're getting into, you know, and you're just trusting them to do the right thing for you. And if you rely on that client's trust, there's a potential for a disjunct there, because your client's understanding of what you're going to do and your understanding of what you're going to do for them could be completely different.
Yeah.
And so if you take the time and make the effort to ensure that what you're going to do is explained fully and clearly to your client, and that they've got an opportunity to ask questions and they know exactly everything that's going to go on, and what you're promising them, and what, you know, what results you're guaranteeing and what results you're not guaranteeing, and what's going to happen, what the methods you're going to use are, and how you work, the more clarity and certainty you can give them, the more informed their consent is going to be.
Yep, totally. And when it comes to informed consent for our clients, it can be as simple as a one-page document where we go through a series of things that tells them exactly what is it's an expectation that's set out. Yeah.
Managing their expectations by providing them with the information. And yes, we absolutely do not have to reinvent the wheel and say the same thing over and over and again. That's why you have legals, because you've put your thought into the policy and into creating the document, so you can just hand that same consistent document out to each client, and you have that consistency. Oh, having said that, it is really important, if you do have a standard form that you hand out to clients, to revisit it.
Yep.
I say every 3 months at least, so every quarter.
Okay.
Revisit your documents and check that it still fits exactly with how you operate. Because our businesses are organic, they grow and change as our lives grow and change. And our legals need to be living documents, so they need to be revisited and updated regularly.
So it's not just a set and forget.
Absolutely not set and forget. That's right.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
So informed consent, awesome. Then what's the difference between informed consent, which we've kind of established as like an agreement of boundaries, and a privacy disclosure? Because essentially that we're telling a client that this is potentially what's going to happen for them. And then what's a privacy disclosure?
Okay, so when a client comes to you, they are trusting you with information about themselves that is both personal and sensitive. Personal information is things that they wouldn't normally disclose to others, but that is able to identify them. It can be things like their address, their email address, their birth date, their marital status, their occupation. It's things that people can find out about them if they try hard enough, but it's personal to them. It can be used to identify them personally. Mm-hmm. Sensitive information is the stuff that they would only tell their treatment provider or their best friend. You know, it's stuff that is really sensitive to them. Their health information about how their health, their dietary habits, their pooping habits, their whatever, you know. All of those sorts of things are sensitive information.
Yeah.
And so your privacy policy tells your clients that you care about the fact that they are trusting you with this information, and that you have a policy which you apply in your business on a consistent basis to protect that information from being broadcast to the world.
Mm-hmm.
That could be things like keeping your notes from your sessions in a locked filing cabinet or a password protected computer.
Yep.
It could be only using trusted online service providers with specific privacy security policies that you have investigated.
So that brings me to the next point. There is the Privacy Amendment Act, Australian Act, that came into effect on the 22nd of February this year. And it is, from what I can tell, non-lawyer speak, it's something to do with, you have to tell somebody if you know that somebody's, how did you say it? Sensitive material was available to somebody other than who it was intended and signed for.
That's right. That's right.
Okay, cool.
Basically, this has been designed to update the privacy laws for the online world, because so many of us are out here working in the cyber world at the moment, and there are such a growth in cyber security risks. And basically what it means is when you're collecting this information, it used to be not such a big problem, because if you were locking all everybody's notes and their paper forms away in your filing cabinet, nobody's going to get access to them, you know? Whereas if you're storing them online, there is a much greater risk of a breach occurring.
Yeah.
Of your email being hacked, of your database being compromised. So a compromise can be as simple as someone looking over your shoulder on the train while you're reviewing a client's personal and private information. So it requires a whole new level of situational awareness around when and how you handle clients' personal and sensitive information in particular. And what the Privacy Act basically says is that if you become aware of the fact that, or become aware of the likelihood, so it's not even a fact, the likelihood that somehow the information you are entrusted with has been released or is likely to be released or may have been released, and there is a risk that someone could be hurt as a result of that or harmed in any way, then you need to notify the person and notify the regulatory body involved.
Yeah. So you work with a lot of online entrepreneurs. What are some of the key places that we wouldn't think, because it's just like a given, that occasionally we use these places to, you know, accrue information, attract information, share information, and by accident we might be doing it and we don't even know about it. You work with lots of online entrepreneurs. Where are some places that you already know that they might have policies in place that you're not allowed to really use that space online?
One of the biggest ones I've seen people using, and I get pretty ranty about, is Google Forms.
Google Forms,
because I had a client once who was using Google Forms to collect her client's credit card details so she could set up a ongoing payment.
Yep.
Now,
and why is that bad? Why is that not unacceptable?
Well, for a start, it's a security risk because Google Forms is hackable. But even beyond that, if you actually go to the trouble of reading Google's privacy policy, and as a lawyer, that's one of the things I do, I go and read people's privacy policies and security policies. If you read their security policies, it's actually a breach of their terms of service to use Google Forms to collect and store personal information. So basically, they're talking about things like passwords. But even credit card details are like 10 steps into worse than passwords. And people's really sensitive health details are a few steps further again.
Or even as simple as their contact details.
Their relationship status, their sexual preference, all of that sort of stuff. It could be used to harm them. And Google Forms says, do not use us to collect this, because if you do, you're not only on your own, we can come again, we're not going to help you. You can't say, oh, but I stored it on Google Forms, it's supposed to be safe. Google Forms will cut you loose and say, nah, you have used it in total disregard of our policies.
Yeah. So
having said that, there are things like, I use Gmail, but for my business email, I actually pay for G Suite. So I subscribe to G Suite because I love Gmail. I absolutely adore Gmail. I use it for all my own personal email stuff. But when it comes to business, I pay for G Suite because G Suite is secure.
Yeah.
So I can be assured that the details my clients are emailing to me and I'm emailing to them are protected under a policy that has a stringent level of security.
Yeah, same.
Open public Gmail does not.
And it's only $10 a month. If you're not getting one client a month to be able to pay for that portion of your,
Yeah.
So,
it's okay. When I talk about risk, I talk about risk as a swimming pool, and it's a very personal thing. Like there are areas, everybody has a different tolerance for risk. There's at one end of the pool, you are standing in water so shallow that you're not having any fun at all, but you're completely safe.
Mm-hmm.
At the other end of the pool, you are in so far out of over your head that you're going down for the third time. You are only just surviving, you are drowning.
Mm-hmm.
At this side of the pool, the water is so frozen that you are completely cut off from communication with everybody. On this side of the pool, you are blabbing out every detail of your personal and your clients' personal lives, and you are in so much hot water that, you know, you're going to boil. Somewhere in that pool is your comfort spot.
Yeah.
And everybody's comfort zone is going to be different. Some people are going to be a bit riskier than others, but you have to really assess. In startup phase, for example, until I could afford G Suite, I did use Gmail, but I educated myself around what their policies were. I was careful, you know, if it was something that a client could get into trouble, or, you know, that was really personal information for a client, I would call them instead rather than emailing them. I would take that step up, so I was aware of my own security.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I'm not saying you have to go out there and pay subscription for everything. What I'm saying is to be aware and to educate yourself around what's involved, and then make conscious, informed decisions around how you're going to manage the situation.
Absolutely. So the next question that is on everybody's lips, undoubtedly, is, but I want to use Google Forms. It's free. And what am I going to use instead? So what have you told your clients to use? And then I'll let everybody know about what I know about some of the secure places as well.
So what I actually use is Adobe Sign. Personally, I subscribe to Adobe Sign because that allows me to create fillable forms quite easily. It's a low subscription cost, low monthly subscription or low yearly subscription. It's not that much. It's got an Australian-based security system, so I know that it complies with Australian law. And that was basically my provider of choice. And I use it, I set that up for clients too. So for example, the client who was taking in credit card details, I set her up a form in Adobe Sign. So all she has to do is add her client's email addresses, send out the form, and Adobe Sign, it's got the advantage that it nags your clients.
Yeah.
So it nags them until they've provided the details and signed them. It makes questions compulsory, so they have to fill in specific details. The other thing I use for less sensitive information, so for example, when I'm just collecting the names, addresses, and contact information and why clients want to see me for my freebie consultations, is just Acuity.
Yeah.
Because Acuity itself has an internal level of security that I'm quite satisfied with for that level of detail.
Yeah.
For personal information, I do not use it to collect sensitive information.
Yeah. So I also use Acuity for those people who are looking for a booking system that doesn't contain your client's personal, private, patient confidentiality notes. I use Acuity for the booking side of things. And for the same reason, there's a level of security. They often talk about it. They actually send emails about their upgrading of security, which I think is wonderful and creates a level of transparency that I like to see in companies. The other one in Australia at the moment that is epically spot on for naturopaths, nutritionists and herbalists is Simple Clinic. Simple Clinic, the guys that have created that program have done so much work to get their security level specifically in alignment with Australian standards for the legalities. It is amazing, and they have a way of being able to attach the form that is secure, so that your client can fill out the form and then it can automatically go back into the system and pre-populate it while staying secure. So it's in alignment with that privacy amendment that came in February as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and so
a custom tailor-made Australian solution is going to be your best bet.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's another couple that are tweaking it, but you don't get to send out the form. So the thing about obtaining that information is it has to not be seen by a third party. And, Google, everyone's going to see that at some stage it has to go onto a system. That system has to be looked after, and therefore somebody else's eyes are going to be on it. And imagine if somebody else's eyes saw your intimate details about different parts of your medical history, your social history, or whatever it happened to be. Whereas something like Adobe does allow you to send that out and then get it back and then pop it on your system if you currently already have a system. So really great conversation.
Yeah.
Awesome.
The other thing to note, just in that sense too, we talk about the third party you can see things, is if you're outsourcing your admin to a VA or that sort of thing, as you grow, as your business grows and you start to outsource, that having confidentiality agreements with your VA is very important too.
100%. Having like every single clinic, if you have anybody at all that you have looking, helping, anything, you need them to sign a confidentiality agreement. So in my clinic, we had students sign confidentiality agreements. We had work experience, we had receptionists, we had other practitioners, we had workmen on site, we had VAs, we had our like anyone who was going to have the potential to walk past our computers, they signed a confidentiality agreement. So really, really important.
And as a mediator, because I'm not one of those lawyers who go to court, I'm actually an accredited mediator. So one of the first rules you learn in mediation is always clean your whiteboard. So you never walk out of your mediation room leaving your whiteboard with the notes from a mediation session on it. So take that thinking into your business, and like, don't go out for lunch leaving your clients' files open on your laptop. All of that sort of thing. Don't go home for the night leaving the filing cabinet unlocked when the cleaners are coming in. All of those sorts of things. Just step up your security because all you need to remember, like, you don't have to remember all of the detail. All you have to remember is that your clients are trusting you with their information just as much as they're trusting you to provide the right treatment. So you just have to expand your awareness of the trust that your clients have in you. And then the privacy policies all start to make perfect sense.
I like that. That's great. Gold. I love it. And that gets rid of our confidentiality conversation. Then what about terms and conditions on a website, or terms and conditions of treatment, or any of that kind of stuff? What does terms and conditions look after?
Okay, so terms and conditions are required for your website under Australian consumer law. And that's basically protecting...
Stop for a second. That means if you have a website...
where you sell services or products, you must have website terms and conditions. And they have to be fair and reasonable. So sometimes when you read somebody's terms and conditions, it will just say, blanket steel wall, you don't get anything, no refunds under any circumstances, no, I'm a blank steel wall, you can't talk to me. Too bad, you did business with me, that's your problem. That is not allowed under Australian consumer law. The ACCC will actually come and take people to court if they have enough people complaining about them because of that, because their terms are too unreasonable. So they need to be fair and reasonable, and you want them to be fair and reasonable anyway. So the things that would go into a website terms and conditions are things like, it's a wonderful place to put your disclaimer. So disclaimers should be thrown around everywhere.
Oh yeah, so disclaimer, right? I'm used to seeing disclaimers on American television of here is Viagra, it may cause stroke, blah, 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 blah. So what's a disclaimer as well?
A disclaimer is basically part of that whole informed consent thing. A disclaimer is where you set out, this is who I am, this is what I do, this is not what I do. It's different from this. Think of your disclaimer, or think of it as a ribbon. And at one end of the ribbon is your responsibility, and at the other end of the ribbon is your client's responsibility. And there's this sliding scale in the middle, and that's your disclaimer. And it sets the boundary where your responsibility ends and your client's responsibility begins. So, for example, your clients might have responsibility to make their own inquiries, to make informed decisions, to go and see a traditional medical professional if they have any concerns. Your responsibility is to provide the best quality service you can within the scope of your practice. So your disclaimer basically describes in detail in enough detail, not too much detail, you don't want overwhelming detail, but enough detail to make sense. It describes that scope of practice. So your clients can clearly understand what you're doing for them, what you offer, where your responsibility ends, and where their responsibility begins.
Mm.
And disclaimers should go everywhere. They should go on your website in your terms and conditions. They should go at the bottom of your, well, they should definitely be in your information pack, the welcome pack that you send out to clients. You could possibly, if you're doing a clinic, you can have one in a little frame on the wall, all of that sort of stuff, just because you want it to be top of your client's mind. You want them to make informed consent, and they're not likely to just take it in once. You kind of got to give it to them a number of times. You can have it in your email footer or an abridged version in your email footer. Yeah.
Awesome. Great.
So disclaimers go in your website terms and conditions. The other things that go in there are your returns, your refund policy, your cancellation policy, all of that sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. So your payment terms and the situations, when a client has a problem. When I do mine, I put in the Australian Consumer Law guarantees, which is what happens if there's a minor problem with your services. So say Zoom's not working, say you only do online consultations and Zoom's not working that day. What are you going to do? Is it too bad? Client has to pay anyway, stuff them? No. But you will try and reschedule at a mutually convenient time. So that's your policy around that. So I get you to sort of imagine all the minor things that could go wrong, all the minor problems that could occur with your services, and think, okay, what am I going to do in each of those scenarios?
Yep.
And then a major problem is one where your client would not have, where the service you provide is not fit for the promises you made about it. It doesn't deliver.
Yep.
Or where something was not told or informed to a client, which if they had known about it, they wouldn't have bought from you.
Yeah.
So that's sort of your major problem. And if there is a major problem, then there are consumer guarantees around what has to happen.
Mm.
So you basically have to refund them a certain amount. And then there's, back at the beginning, there's your change of mind stuff. So that's your minor problem, your major problem. There's also change of mind. And you don't have to offer a refund for a change of mind. It's a very personal thing about what are you going to do, what's the relationship you want to have with your clients, how do you want to deal with that, and making a policy and sticking to it and applying it consistently there is also important. So there's all those payment questions that go in your, and the next thing that goes in there is your intellectual property protection. So that basically says that everything you write on your website is copyrighted, that you own it, and it sets the information around how people can use or share your information that you provide.
So I also heard that it's inferred, if it's on your website, that it's copyrighted. Is that true?
It is, but it never hurts to have the little copyright symbol and copyright your name and the year that it was written down on the footer of your website.
Yep.
And it never hurts to have the bigger statement in your website terms and conditions that just really clearly sets out, hey, I wrote this, be nice, don't steal it and pretend it's yours, because if you do, I'm not going to be happy.
Yeah.
That sort of stuff. So, basically, website terms and conditions, I say your website is like your home.
Yeah.
And if you see the doors of your home,
it used to be like a pamphlet. You used to do it, but now there is so much more information that goes on there, and there's two-way conversation and a relationship building scenario that happens in that lounge room that happens to be your website. Exactly. That creating those beautiful boundaries and setting the
you wouldn't throw open the doors to your lounge room and invite everyone off the street in without having some house rules.
Yeah.
So your website terms and conditions basically set the house rules for your website, and it's particularly important if you have allowed comments on your blog, or if you have a membership area, or all of those sorts of things. Then there also needs to be that sort of behaviour regulation stuff, where you set your expectations of how they behave.
Yeah.
When they're interacting with your website as well, and that lets you You can give them fair warning that you're going to delete comments that you deem to be offensive and all that sort of stuff as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. Awesome. Okay. So I'm learning so much from this. Thank you so much. Okay, what's the other one? Copyright, online and offline. So the copyright thing, it's one thing for us. So I have a little bit of a story about copyright. I put it. I had a Getty image. Well, Getty Images got in touch with me, bless them, because I had done a presentation 5 years ago that happened to make its way onto YouTube. And that was on my old website that I hadn't used for I don't know how long. But in that presentation was an image that I had my receptionist or VA plug in because I randomly went, just find a stressed woman image. And I didn't specifically say pay for a stock image of a stressed woman or get one from our library that's already on the computer. They just went to Google, grabbed it, snatched it, popped it on there. And I had a $950 fine based on copyright law that I knew nothing about.
The problem these days is that there are so many image crawlers. It's so easy for technology to go out there and scan every image on the internet and match it against their databases. And the Getty and the others, they're called copyright trolls. They basically go out and it's a form of extortion. But it is based in the law.
Yeah.
So the easiest way to protect yourself is to never use an image unless it's one that you created yourself from scratch, or you've paid for a license from it and you're aware of what the terms of that license are. Like, is it licensed for commercial use?
Yeah. And it has to be commercial use if you're
using it in any way to do with your business, then it has to be for commercial use. Or you get it from one of the reliable sites. I use Pixabay. Pixabay is free.
That is excellent.
I am really happy. I have done strenuous research into their policies, and I am happy that at times when I've seen examples of when a copyright claim has been made against someone using an image on Pixabay, where the owners of Pixabay have stepped in and helped them fight the charge.
Fantastic.
So I'm really quite happy with Pixabay as a solution, and that's what I personally use. But all of those types of services, knowing if you find an image on the web that you absolutely have to use, then do your research and trace it back. Go down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Keep going back until you find its original source, and then ask for permission.
And ask for permission, and say the source.
And then acknowledge it. Yeah,
source, and whoever it comes from. And the other
thing, depending on the type of image, it may not be enough to just acknowledge the source. If you're using a quote from someone, then quote and make it, a link back to them and make it really obvious.
Yeah.
And
it may not be now that you're affected by it. So this happened to me 3 years before, randomly on some odd occasion. Like it comes back in that kind of format. So you've got to be really making sure that you're covered. And this is the thing with a lot of legal stuff. It may not happen immediately. It may be way down the track when you
have to take that sort of due diligence mindset. Just as you wouldn't prescribe a type of treatment or something for a client without doing your due diligence and checking in with what you know to be right and true and safe. It's the same with anything you publish on the internet. You need to do your due diligence and to just be aware of who owns what you're working with.
Perfect. Okay, next level from copyright is trademarking. And the thing about starting up, we all freak out. Okay, should I do it under my name? Should I do it under somebody else's name? Oh, somebody else has that URL or that particular web address. I wonder if I should use that. Oh, they've got kind of that name, but they're over in the US. Maybe I could use that name for my course. Maybe I should trademark it. What's your take on trademark?
Okay, so there's a number of things that get confused here. The first level is business names. Business names only give you the right to conduct business under that name in Australia. Basically, they're for your client's protection.
Excellent.
So because I could call myself Fairy Tale Lawyer, and who the hell is Fairy Tale Lawyer? How would my clients come against me? So the business name register is basically the list of the people behind the business names.
Yeah.
And it's for the client's protection. So the government keeps a record of business names and the people behind them, so that if someone has a problem with that business name, they can say, okay, that's who you need to talk to. That's what the problem is with. It identifies you. Then there is domain names. Domain names basically do the same thing on the internet.
Yeah.
You know, they identify your website. They don't give you any ownership rights over the name.
Yes. Which means if somebody from another country has the same one as you,
too bad.
That's right.
Then trademarking is basically a way to pay for the ownership, to register your ownership of your reputation in a name or image. So it's your business's reputation that you're protecting.
Yep.
A trademark.
So you could trademark a process, like a very individualized process that you've gone through with a whole bunch of people that you've labeled, you know.
Yeah, you can. The difference is, okay, so we talked about copyright before. Copyright is images or literary works, which is like a blog. It's a chunk of word. Copyright cannot exist in a single word or a phrase. In order to protect a single word or a phrase, you would need to trademark it.
Gotcha.
Which basically, and trademark is an exclusive ownership system. So once you've trademarked your business name or your catchphrase or whatever else, you're the only one who is entitled to use that trademarked name.
In Australia or globally?
You can trademark it in Australia, but it is only in Australia. Then you have to trademark it in every other country where you're using it, and that can get expensive. The thing is that Australia has a convention that's called the Madrid Convention, where we have this arrangement with most of the other common law countries, most of the other countries in the world. So if you have a registered Australian trademark, there is a simplified system for registering it in the other countries. Otherwise, you kind of have to go out and find a trademark lawyer in each country or research the rules. And even I won't research the rules and do it in other countries.
Yeah.
Because it's just too darn complicated. But once you've got an Australian registered trademark, then you can use the Madrid Convention the Madrid Protocol to extend your protection to various other countries.
So when would be the symptoms? Because I see it all the time. All my mentees want to trademark their thing and they've only had 5 people go and do their course or their method or their thing or their business. Yep.
As soon as you start using a name, a word, a phrase, an image consistently in your business, you have a trademark. You have an unregistered trademark.
Right.
And an unregistered trademark, you can use the TM after it to tell the world that this is my trademark, you know? TM in a circle. If you do it in a word process, you write bracket, TM, bracket, and it'll pop it into a circle for you.
Yep.
That TM, that trademark, that's an unregistered trademark. It is enforceable under the common law.
Okay.
Which is basically anyone who uses it, you can then sue them in court for misrepresentation, for passing themselves off as you, for pretending to be you and causing confusion in the marketplace. And you can claim damages, loss of profits, all of that sort of stuff. And you can get an injunction to stop them. It's expensive. It's difficult. You have to have a whole pile of proof about when you started using the trademark, the amount of effort and money and time you have invested in building your reputation in that trademark. So all of the marketing activities you've done with regard to it. You basically have to have a whole pile of evidence, because they're going to be using their own evidence to say, hey, I had this. But if you had it first and you have all of this evidence, then you have quite a solid unregistered trademark.
Okay.
So you don't have to rush out and register your trademark until you're sure it's going to be a thing.
Great.
Because a trademark lasts for 10 years once it's registered.
Mm-hmm.
So you build your unregistered trademark, use it consistently, claim it as yours with the TM. Then when you're ready, then you can register your trademark. And when it's a long process, it takes at least 7 months to register a trademark. And when that's registered, then you get the R symbol. It's an offence to use the R symbol
I was wondering what the difference
on
was.
anything that is not a registered trademark in Australia.
Yep.
So, and you'll sometimes see, start looking around yourself as you're looking at products and things. Next time you're in the supermarket, do a little trademark investigation. When you have a look, and you see some of them have TM and some of them have R, and some of them are USA, Australia. So they show which countries they're registered in as well. But yeah, that's the difference. TM is yours to use anytime you like. Don't overuse it because you're watering down the effectiveness.
Yeah.
You don't want to TM everything.
Yeah.
For example, I use contracts that care. That's my little slogan, and I put TM after it because I'm not ready to register it just yet.
I like it. This is gold advice. This is awesome.
TM after that on my website, on my marketing material, anywhere I think that it's important to claim my ownership of it so that people are aware.
Yeah, yeah.
That this is, so that it is associated with me and that I am clearly building my reputation in that name, so that anyone else who comes along and starts saying, I offer contracts that care, I can say, hello, that's mine.
Yeah, and I've been doing it since such and such a time.
Yeah, I've been doing it since such and such. I have all of this evidence, screenshots.
Beautiful.
Take a screenshot, of your website at point in time stuff.
Yeah, cool. Awesome. Okay, great. So that's trademark. Okay, we've got 2 more things to talk about.
I'll just quickly on trademarks. The best, if you're thinking about business names, you're thinking about what to trademark, the best trademarks are those that are either made up words, like and that's, or words that are used completely out of context, like Apple.
Awesome.
Yep. If you call yourself naturopath, you will not be able to trademark it because every other naturopath has a right to call themselves a naturopath.
Yep. I'm just about to trademark mine. Now that you've mentioned it, I'm like, okay, great. Naturepreneur. Nobody else has it spelt my way, and I will claim it now.
I would. Yeah, absolutely. So when you have something that is unique and is successful and is the core of your business, that's when you think it's time for a trademark.
Beautiful. Love it.
Time to register this because I know this is a core that I'm going to be building on for the next 10 years.
Yeah.
It's the foundation of all my products. All my products and services branch out under this umbrella. I'm going to protect my umbrella.
Fantastic. Ooh, good. All right. We've talked a lot about the ACCC, and as naturopaths, nutritionists, and herbalists, we come under the code of conduct for the unregistered health practitioners.
Yeah.
Australia-wide. And what that means is we come under the ACCC. Because we're not covered by APRA, we aren't registered, we are unregistered. That's a whole nother story, people. We will get into that some other time. But currently we are under the ACCC. And the ACCC has some guidelines around testimonials. And we get asked this question over and over and over again. Can I put testimonials up? Can I not? What can I do and what can't I do? What's your take on that?
Testimonials can be tricky in the health service provider realm for 2 reasons. The first is going to be privacy. So if a client writes a raving review for you, you need to ask them for permission to use it. And you need to get their informed consent. So you have to tell them where you're going to use it and how you're going to use it. And ask, if you're going to put a photo with it, ask for their permission to use the photo and get it in writing.
Yeah.
And keep that with your file so that you make it really clear. That's step 1 because it's privacy. You're breaching their privacy. Even the fact that they have been a client of yours is personal and potentially sensitive information.
That they may be okay with right now, but in 5 years' time, they may not be okay that they came to see you for that prostate thing and you solved it.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, their boss might be Googling for stress relief something, and they find out that, oh, here, she cured me of my suicidal tendencies or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
They may not. And vet it yourself. If you think, hey, that could cause problems for them if that was on, ask them if you can edit their testimonial back a little bit to remove the personal sensitive parts of it, so that make it generic.
Yeah.
Then the ACCC part of it, you have to be very, very careful under the ACCC. The ACCC is all about preventing misleading and deceptive conduct. So basically, anything that suggests that you can or have or will do something, you know, if you're claiming to do a cure for cancer.
No cures, people, you all know about it. Don't use the word cure. Just
weight, you know, transform your weight in 7 days. All of this sort of stuff. Be really, really genuine and honest. If you are genuine and honest and you ensure your testimonials are genuine and honest, then you're not going to fall foul of the ACCC.
Yep.
Or the privacy, you know. If it's genuine and honest and something that someone would stand up in front of a crowd and happily say, a crowd of their friends, family and co-workers, and happily say about you, then you're going to be safe.
Awesome.
You know, if it's something that they might tell their best friend, but wouldn't actually tell with their co-workers standing there, then you might want to trim that back before you put it on your website.
Perfect. Great advice. All right, last one. The GDPR coming up on the 25th of May, the General Data Protection Regulation. There has been some scary stuff about this. You know, it's kind of next level Privacy Amendment Act, rah, rah, rah. But there's a little caveat in there, isn't there?
Yes. It's
So the main thing that I've noticed is that it's a European thing.
Oh yeah.
And if we're Australian and we're trying to if we're Australian and we are conducting business and conducting consults within Australia and New Zealand, we're pretty much cool. Yeah. If you're going and doing an online consult for somebody in the EU, or we're selling them an online program specifically to do with detox or something else, and we're asking them for information, what happens then?
Yeah, okay. So that's where I went blank because of acronyms.
It's all good.
Which acronym is it? My head is full of acronyms. Which one am I talking about? Okay, so yes, if you're practicing in Australia and New Zealand, then all that stuff we talked about before about the cyber data breaches and all that applies to you. The EU is like cyber data breach on steroids. They are, Big Brother is watching you times 100. And there's all this other stuff too. Like the EU is a law unto itself.
Mm.
It has its own laws that are separate from the rest, quite different from the rest of the world, and are quite stringent. They're very, very protective. So there's all this sort of stuff, but even your website terms and conditions and your privacy policy have to be different if you are regularly treating clients who are in the EU and even America. I mean, America doesn't apply to that sort of thing, but you'll know it from your own insurance, or you should know it from your own insurance. If you're treating Australian and New Zealand clients, insurance is no problem at all. If you're treating American clients, then insurance becomes problematic. If you're treating EU clients, insurance becomes very problematic.
And so if you're asked to do an online consultation with somebody who is in the US or is in the EU, the first call that you need to make is to your insurance company to see whether or not you're covered, because any information you give them from then on is very risky.
Exactly. The first step one, that is outside the scope of my service. I don't work with clients outside EU, and I don't work with clients outside Australia and New Zealand. That's the safest position. Mm-hmm. Step two, I have insurance that covers me for international clients, and I have checked with my insurer that I am covered. Step 3, for those who like swimming out there in the hot, deep water, is at the very least, get your clients to write something that says that they understand that you are an Australian practitioner, that your insurance doesn't cover them, and they agree to waive all their rights.
Yeah.
And cross your fingers and pray, basically.
Yeah, but there is that clarity. You just need everything in writing within the clarity that the information you've given, the information they have given, like you said, with that sliding scale of the that everybody knows where they sit on that piece.
Exactly. If you're dealing with that, if you're swimming in that hot, deep water, then make sure that everything is super, super, super clear, and get them to sign off on it and all the rest of it.
Totally. So
my 5-year-old wants.
Hello, beautiful. Fantastic. So the exact same thing happens with all of our businesses. I'm so happy that you're a real life person.
Real life, definitely.
Okay, so the last thing I wanted to cover is so many questions will be up right now about what can we do next. Okay, so stage 1 is I don't have any legals. I know I'm supposed to have them. It's been on my to-do list since I opened my doors in the past 1 to 3 years, but I don't have a lot of money. What should I do?
Well,
because you've got some DIY template.
I do. I don't believe in, like, a lot of people in that situation would go out and start Googling, and then they'll very quickly get overwhelmed because what they find will not make sense to them. It will be written in legal jargon. It won't fit their business. It'll be for all sorts of things. So I've done that for you. I've gone out and I have researched all the ones that are out there, and I have condensed them down into what I call my DIY packs, which are basically all of the questions that a lawyer would ask you, and they're very thorough. All of the questions a lawyer would ask you if they were going to create website terms and conditions, a privacy policy, a client service agreement, a healer-client agreement, which covers the National Code of Conduct, all of those sorts of things.
So the National Code of Conduct for unregistered practitioners, the Australian one with the ACCC, that's covered by that one. Cool.
That's covered by the big healer-client agreement. If you're at startup stage, you might want to just go with the basic client service agreement, which is just the little mini one. And that's better than nothing. It's cheaper, but it's better than nothing.
Yep.
Then when you're doing really well and you want to step up and you really want to make sure you are giving your best practice and you've really considered all of your due diligence requirements, then you can step up to the healer client agreement, which is a much more comprehensive. Or if you're one of those people who feels like, I'm standing in the middle of the pool, but the water here is too hot and too deep, I'm going to save up and get my healer client agreement right now because that's going to be my ducky ring and I'm going to feel really, really safe once I've got that going for me.
Yeah.
It's a personal risk management.
And that would take us to the next step. So there's the startup and we go, well, maybe. So then we've got the DIY packs, especially the client agreement minimal. And I would suggest the terms and conditions minimal because
website terms and conditions.
All of them are on a website and it's just so important.
Start with your website terms and conditions and your privacy policy.
Yeah.
Even the privacy policy. My DIY pack for privacy policy is $55. There's no excuse for not having one.
Yeah.
If you have to do it.
Especially with the new laws and all that.
You are required under the Australian privacy principles as a health service provider. You are required under the law to have a privacy policy. There is no excuse for not having one. You can get into a lot of trouble if your client complains about you.
Yep.
So get your privacy policy. Then get your website terms and conditions because they're required under Australian consumer law. And the beauty of that is the privacy policy DIY pack's 55, the website terms and conditions is 110. So I've made them as affordable as I possibly can. And with each of those, I'm not abandoning you. You get an hour-long accountability action session, which is basically a Zoom call where you jump on with me and I say, right, start answering your questions. I'm here if you need me. So you sit there and you work through your questions, and if you get stuck or blocked, then you just sort of jump, we set a timer and we do a Pomodoro. That's so good. Questions, and then we have a 5-10 minute break where you can ask me anything. And then we go for another 20 minutes, and then we have another 5-10 minute break where you can ask me anything.
Beautiful.
So, you know, there is that support structure built in, even with the base level DIY packs.
Yeah. Yeah, and then there's the next level. If you're not from startup and you've got something, you're not quite sure if it's quite right, or you're expanding as a clinic, then you've got a next level where you can actually interact with you, and you get your basic template, but it can be formulated and molded.
Well, what it basically is once you've filled out your worksheet questionnaire for the DIY pack, you also get a blank document which basically guides you through writing it up. So you can use your accountability action session anytime you like. So you can say, okay, I've got no problem answering all the questions, but I'm really iffy about writing it up into a first draft. So you can use your accountability action session then to help with the wording of writing it up, if that's what you need to do, if you're absolutely minimal budget.
Yep.
Step 2 is you can upgrade to a DIY plus review, which is where you fill out your worksheet, you write up your first draft, and then you send me your first draft. And then for an extra payment, which I don't charge until the very end, all upgrade costs are charged at the end when you are 100% satisfied with your final document. So it's a 100% satisfaction guarantee with all of my services.
Beautiful.
You basically send me your first draft and I polish it for you. And I'll send it back to you with questions and tell you where you've left holes open, and we'll work on it together until it is so shiny that you love it. Alternatively, if you filled out your DIY worksheet and you're looking at it, the blank draft doc, and thinking, I have no idea how to make this into a draft, you send me your worksheet and I do it for you. That's the next step of the service. And then there's the VIP service, which is where you're so busy, so flat out, so unconfident in your language that you don't want to even fill out the worksheet. And we get on and I do it all as an interview. But that's for
there is that 10% of the people who are listening. We do have the Naturpreneurs who are running multimodality practices. They always say they're going to get back to it. And then it gets to a point where, and it did for me, that's why I'm so for getting on top of this legal stuff. I did get a complaint through the ACCC because I didn't have these things in place. It wasn't clear for me to then go, oh, this is the process I went through. These are all the forms that were signed, and this is where the loophole ended, that it didn't get looked after. Eventually that happened. That was like a 2-month process to wade through all of that, and it could have been so much clearer if I'd just taken the time. The 1 hour, I was seeing 50 clients a week. Yeah. And there is 10% of the people who are listening, and you know who you are in burnout zone and you aren't getting on top of this. You need to take the hour to just get it all started.
Right down at the startup stage, you can throw time at the problem, throw your own time. Yep. At the other end of the stage, you may need to throw money at the problem.
Yeah.
But somewhere along there, there's an option for everybody.
Yeah, fantastic.
And then there's also the situation where if you've already got documents, your business model has changed and you're not sure they're still suiting you. I also do contract review services where I just update things for you and have a check over them. And if someone else asks you to sign a contract for any reason, then I do contract advice, which is where I read through the contract and put it into plain English for you so you can work out what you're actually signing.
Fantastic, which is also a really good and important thing, given that all of us don't, our circumstances change. We end up in somebody else's clinic. We end up here, there, or everywhere. We sign different things, and having an option like that is so cool.
Yeah, and then there's the mediation services, which is where if you've got an unhappy client and they're threatening to take you to court, and you think that they might actually have reason, but you can't actually talk to them, then I do online mediation, which is like a Zoom room with the 3 of us in a Zoom room, completely confidential and private, and I conduct the conversation for you and guide you through from each of you telling your story and having your say, to clarifying the issues that are in dispute, and then working towards a win-win solution where everybody can walk away feeling like that, they've made progress and that they've resolved the issues.
What an amazing job. That is so cool.
I love mediation.
Of all the scary lawyer, like people with the weird hats type of scenario, of all the things that you could mold a job into, that mediation and communication and creating more love in the world in a nice, safe, yummy way is, that's so cool. I'm so glad you exist, Michelle.
I couldn't even start in the entrepreneurial realm. I was just treading water until the day I forgave myself for becoming a lawyer. The day I forgave myself for becoming a lawyer and started to look at, okay, how can I make this? How can I be the lawyer that I want to be? There is a need for lawyers in the world, but there isn't a need for the traditional barbed wire lawyer. There's a need for a loving lawyer. How can I be that loving lawyer? And that's when my business started to grow and take off.
That gives us full body goosebumps. I love it when people are in alignment with their past and their present, and it brings about a future that just comes through them. I love that. And I'm so, so glad that we were able to have this chat today, Michelle. Where can everybody find you if they're looking for you online?
My website's really easy. It's just michellewhitehead.com.au. And you can find me on Facebook. I'm Michelle Marie Whitehead personally, but my business one is just Michelle Whitehead.
Beautiful. Awesome. Thank you so, so very much. If you have any questions, pop them down below if you're watching this on any of the media channels for Naturepreneur Hub, and we'll get back to you about them, and the links will be below as well. And thank you so, so much.
It's been a great pleasure. I enjoyed it muchly.
Awesome. All right. I will catch you guys in the next vid.